I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you angry. Not at me, at yourself. Because last August, you let this opportunity slip right through your fingers. You didn't even know it existed, and you paid for it every single week from November to April. You paid for it with your money, your health, and your independence. But this year, I'm not going to let that happen. Not if you listen to me for the next 15 minutes. My name is Jeremiah Byler. I've been putting food by for my family since I was 12 years old, standing beside my father with a hoe in my hands and sweat running down my back. I'm a farmer, first and foremost, but I'm also a tinkerer, a preservationist, and a man who hates waste with a holy passion. I don't buy vegetables from November to May, not one. And that's not because I have a giant greenhouse or some fancy electric grow lights. It's because I know the secret that August holds. The secret that the grocery industry and the big seed companies pray you never figure out. You see, the English world runs on convenience. They plant their tomatoes in May, they harvest in July, and by August, they're pulling up their vines, patting themselves on the back, and heading to the supermarket for wilted lettuce and mealy apples. They think the growing season ends when the calendar flips to August. That's the biggest lie the industrial food system ever sold. Out here, we know that August is not the end. August is the second spring. It's the secret doorway. And if you miss it, you're not just missing a few extra vegetables. You're missing a winter's worth of nutrition, and you're handing your hard earned money to the very corporations that profit from keeping you dependent. Here's the part that should make you uneasy. The commercial seed industry and the big grocery chains want you to believe that gardening is a spring only activity. They spend millions on marketing that tells you to buy their starter plants in April, their fertilizer in May, and their fall cleanup products in September. They don't mention August because if they did, you'd realize you can double your growing season for less than $5 in seeds. The average American family spends $150 a week on groceries in winter. That's nearly $800 a month, just for vegetables that taste like cardboard and were shipped from 2,000 miles away. Multiply that by 5 months, and you're talking $4,000. $4,000 that could stay in your pocket if only you knew what to stick in the ground right now. And trust me on this, the industry knows. They know that a single packet of spinach seeds costs $2 and will give you 30 pounds of greens before the first hard frost. They know that a $5 bag of garlic bulbs will yield 100 heads come July. But they're not going to tell you that. That's bad for business. Now, why does this work? Why can you plant in August and still get a harvest? It comes down to soil temperature and daylight length. Most folks think it's too hot in August for new plants. They're wrong. The soil is still warm, often warmer than it was in May. That warmth germinates seeds in half the time, and the days, while getting shorter, are still long enough for rapid leaf growth. The real enemy is not heat, it's the frost state. But here's the mechanic most people miss. Many of our favorite fall crops actually prefer the cooling nights. They put their energy into leaves and roots instead of bolting to seed. That's why a carrot planted in August is sweeter than a carrot planted in June. The plant responds to the shortening days by storing sugar, Mother Nature's own preservation system. So, knowing that, let me give you the 6 crops you will regret, and I mean truly regret, not planting before August ends. I've timed these so that, with a little protection, you'll be eating fresh long after the English have given up and switched to frozen dinners. Spinach. Folks, if you only plant one thing this August, let it be spinach. The grocery store charges $3.50 a bag for wilted sandy leaves. A packet of spinach seed costs $2.49, and you can succession plant it every 2 weeks until the first heavy frost. Here's what you do. Go out today, right now, this week, and soak your spinach seeds in a glass of water overnight. That softens the seed coat. The next morning, drain them. Pat them dry with a cloth and direct sow them into a shallow trench, maybe half an inch deep. Space the seeds an inch apart, rows about a foot apart, then water them in with a gentle sprinkle. Now, August sun can be brutal, so I lay a piece of old burlap or a light row cover over the seed bed for the first 3 days. That keeps the soil from crusting over. In 4 or 5 days, you'll see those little green cotyledons pushing through. And by the time the first frost comes in October, you'll have thick, dark, crinkled leaves that you can harvest with a knife, and they'll keep growing back. Cost to you under $3. Yield over 40 pounds across the season. Compare that to the $40 you'd spend on bagged spinach at the store. Kale. Now, kale is the workhorse of the old world garden. I've seen kale survive snow cover, but you have to get it started now. Start seeds indoors. If you have a windowsill, that's enough, or direct sow them. But I prefer to start them in a little flat of compost just to keep them safe from the flea beetles that are active in August. After 2 weeks, when the seedlings are 3 inches tall, you're going to transplant them into the garden. Space them 18 inches apart because they get big. And here's the trick: water them deeply right after transplanting, and then do not water them again for 4 days. That forces the roots to dig down deep, searching for moisture. Deep roots mean a plant that can handle frost. Around late October, when the temperatures drop into the 20s, the kale's starches convert to sugars. It gets sweeter. That's your winter gold. You can walk out there in December, brush the snow off, and pick fresh greens for your soup pot. That single planting will save you $60 in winter greens. The industry does not want you to know that. Radishes. Now, radishes aren't just for spring salads. They're my August secret weapon because they mature in 25 days. 25 days. You plant them on the 1st of August, and by the 25th, you're pulling them up. But you can do better. Plant them in a wide, shallow, bowl-shaped bed, about a 1/4 inch deep. Seeds spaced 2 inches apart. Water them well, and in 3 days, you'll see germination. The trick to a fall radish is to plant them in full sun, which is crazy, I know, but the heat pushes them to grow fast, and the cooling nights keep them from getting woody and pithy. They come out crisp, peppery, and perfect. And you can plant a second round on the 15th of August and a third round on the 25th. That gives you a continuous supply through September. A packet of radish seeds is $1.50. It will give you about 200 radishes. At the store, a bunch of organic radishes is $3.99. Do the math. That's roughly $80 worth of radishes for $1.50. And you can pickle them, roast them, or slice them onto buttered bread. The commercial growers hate this. Garlic. Now, I'm going to give you a piece of advice that your grandfather should have told you. Garlic is not a spring crop. Garlic is a fall crop, but you have to plant it in August. Wait, hear me out. I'm not saying plant the cloves in August. I'm saying you need to order and prepare in August. The best planting time for garlic is mid to late October, but the catalogs run out of the good hardneck varieties by September. So you buy your seed garlic in August. You store it in a cool, dry spot, and then, 6 weeks later, when the soil is still warm but the air is cooling, you break the bulbs into cloves and plant each clove 2 inches deep and 6 inches apart. They'll root in the warm soil before winter, and they'll go dormant. Come spring, they're the first thing to green up. You'll have massive bulbs by July. Last year, my garlic bed gave me 150 heads. I saved 40 for seed, ate 20, and braided 90 to sell at the market for $2 a head. That's $180 from a $12 investment. But you have to act in August. Wait until September, and the good varieties are gone. That's the industry's bottleneck. They want you to buy the cheap, soft-neck garlic from China, that they stock in grocery stores year-round. Plant local hardneck and you'll never go back. Beets. Beets are my favorite for two reasons. You eat the root and you eat the greens. That's two crops for one seed. Plant beet seeds in the first week of August, and I mean plant them, not transplant them, because beets hate root disturbance. You're going to soak the seeds for 4 hours before planting. Then make a furrow an inch deep, drop one seed every 3 inches, cover loosely, and tamp it down. Water consistently every morning for 10 days. The key to a sweet, tender beet in the fall is consistent moisture. If you let them dry out, they get tough. But if you keep them watered, the August heat pushes them to grow quickly, and the cooler nights of September pull the sugars into the root. You can harvest them in late September. And here's a trick: don't pull them all. Leave half of them in the ground. Mulch them with a foot of straw. They'll sit there, perfectly preserved through November. You dig them out as needed. That saves you from canning or freezing. The root cellar in the ground is free. The grocery store charges $2.49 a pound for beets. You'll harvest 40 pounds for $3. Swiss chard. And finally, chard. If you plant chard now, it won't give you a huge harvest in the fall. No. The magic of chard planted in August is that it survives the winter in many climates, and then it explodes the following spring. The plants sit low to the ground, protected by their own canopy. They stop growing in the cold, but they don't die. Then, in March, when everyone else is starting their seeds indoors, you're walking out to your garden and cutting tender, sweet chard leaves that overwintered. It's 2 to 3 weeks ahead of any spring planting. This is the secret to being a real homesteader. You don't just plant for the season you're in, you plant for the season that's coming. Chard seed is $3.50. It will give you early greens worth at least $30 at the spring market. Now, let me give you one more old world trick. For all 6 of these crops, I don't fertilize with modern synthetics. I make a simple compost tea. I take a 5-gallon bucket, fill it 2/3 with water, throw in a shovel of well-rotted manure and a handful of wood ash, that's potassium right there, and I let it sit for 3 days, stirring it once a day. Then I strain it through a burlap sack and use that to water my new seedlings. It gives them a gentle, slow-release feed that won't burn the roots. That costs me nothing. The commercial liquid fertilizer for fall gardens costs $22 a bottle. That's a scam. The plants don't need nitrogen-heavy fertilizer right now. They need phosphorus and potassium to establish roots and build sugars. So skip the miracle grow. Use the manure and the ash. That's all my father ever used, and his garden fed 12 children. The stakes here are bigger than just saving a few dollars. The industrial food system is fragile. It depends on cheap fuel, massive irrigation, and a complex supply chain that can be broken by a strike, a drought, or a fuel shortage. When I see my English neighbors filling their carts with imported vegetables in January, I don't feel smug. I feel worried for them because they've traded resilience for convenience. They've outsourced their survival to corporations that don't care about them. If you plant these 6 crops now, you're not just getting a few salads. You're building a buffer. You're telling the system that you refuse to be dependent. You're putting the control back in your hands where it belongs. So here's your specific numbered checklist. Do this weekend, not next week. This weekend. 1. Go to your local garden center or order online tonight. Buy 1 packet each of spinach, kale, radish, beet, and chard seeds. Order your garlic from a reputable seed company. I recommend a hardneck variety, like music or chestnut. 2. Prepare a bed. Clear out any spring crops that are finished. Pull the tomatoes that are done, the beans that are tired. Loosen the soil with a garden fork, just to a depth of 6 inches. No need to rototill, just fluff it up. Rake it smooth. 3. Plant the radishes and spinach this Saturday. Soak the seeds Friday night. Plant them in the morning when it's cool. Water them with a sprinkling can. 4. Sunday. Start your kale seeds in a flat or a recycled egg carton filled with potting soil. Put them on a shaded porch, not in direct sun. 5. Monday. Order your garlic. If you wait, you'll miss the good varieties. 6. Mark your calendar for October 15th to plant that garlic. If you do these 6 things, I promise you, come November, you'll be eating fresh produce while the rest of the neighborhood is standing in line at the checkout aisle. And that's a feeling money can't buy. Now, next time I want to talk to you about how to keep those fall greens growing right through a light frost without any hoop houses, just using an old bed sheet and some water-filled jugs. It's a trick that saved my entire crop during an early freeze 2 years ago. But that's a story for another day. I'm Jeremiah Byler. Get your hands dirty this weekend. And when you pull your first radish out of that August soil, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Leave me a comment below. Tell me which of these 6 crops you're planting first. I read every one of them, and I always answer the questions.